All right, let's dive into something a little bit different today.
Okay.
We're talking about hurricane recovery.
Uh-huh.
And I think this is something that is relevant to so many people.
Yeah.
Obviously, those who have lived through hurricanes, but even if you haven't,
Right.
it's good to be prepared and kind of know what's going on.
Absolutely.
We have some great sources here.
Okay.
We have a WSV Group Inc. article that gives us some really good practical advice.
Okay.
And we have some insights from Meet Sean
Okay.
that talks a lot about insurance, which is a huge thing when you're dealing with the aftermath of a hurricane.
Of course, yeah.
And then also looking at how all of this impacts the real estate market.
Right.
So,
It's fascinating how a natural disaster can have these ripple effects on something like real estate.
Hmm.
You know,
it is.
it's not just about the immediate damage.
Right.
It's about the long-term consequences and how it reshapes neighborhoods and communities.
Absolutely. And, speaking of picking up the pieces after a hurricane, WSV Group Inc., they actually lay out these 4 essential steps
Yeah.
that homeowners should take immediately after a hurricane hits.
Right.
And the first one, and this may seem kind of obvious, is to inspect for structural damage.
Right. And it's interesting that that's the very first thing they emphasize.
Yeah.
Because it really highlights the importance of safety.
Yeah.
In the chaos after a hurricane.
Right.
You might not notice a small crack in your foundation.
Right.
Or a loose shingle on the roof.
Right.
But these things can become major hazards later on.
Right.
So it's crucial to assess the damage as soon as it's safe to do so.
Okay, so how do you actually go about that?
Well,
Because I'm picturing myself,
Yeah.
Climbing up on the roof right after a hurricane, which doesn't sound safe.
no,
Yeah.
definitely not.
Yeah.
For anything major, you should always call a professional.
Right.
But even before that, you could do a basic walk around your property.
Okay.
Just taking note of anything that looks out of place. And you know what? Mishan actually has a great tip here.
Okay.
Before the next hurricane season,
Okay.
make a video walkthrough of your entire house,
Really?
narrating the condition of each room, each item.
Wow.
Having that pre-damage inventory can be so helpful for insurance claims later.
That's brilliant.
It's like a time capsule of your home's pre-hurricane state.
Exactly. Yeah, you have that record.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's say you've done your inspection.
Okay.
You've documented everything really thoroughly.
All right.
What's the next step on this checklist?
Well, WSV Group Inc., they say the next step is all about your insurance company.
Okay.
And it's not just about filing a claim.
Right.
It's about understanding your policy.
Really understanding it.
Inside and out, yes.
Okay, but that sounds really daunting.
It can be,
Yeah, especially when you're already dealing with all the stress
of course.
of hurricane aftermath.
Absolutely.
So do you have any tips on how to make that process a little less overwhelming?
Mishan actually breaks it down into 5 key questions
Okay.
that you need to ask your insurance adjuster.
Okay.
Things like, what does your policy actually cover?
Okay.
What are the timelines for filing and processing the claim?
Got it.
Can you choose your own contractors?
Right.
Understanding these things can really empower you
Yeah.
to navigate that insurance maze.
I like the insurance maze
Yeah.
because it really can feel like a maze.
It can be very confusing,
Yeah.
especially when you're dealing with so much else.
Right. And it's about being proactive,
Yes,
not just waiting for things to happen.
exactly.
You need to be informed.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to ask for clarification.
Okay.
If you don't understand something, your adjuster tells you.
Right.
It's your home, your claim.
Yeah.
You have the right to be fully informed.
Okay, so one question that I think a lot of people have
Yeah.
is how does the adjuster actually determine
Right.
the value of your claim?
That's a great question.
Yeah, what factors are they looking at?
They use different methods to evaluate property damage.
Sure.
And this is where that meticulous documentation we talked about becomes
Right.
so important.
Okay.
Photos,
Yeah.
videos, receipts for damaged items.
I see.
All of that can make a big difference in getting a fair settlement.
So it's not just about documenting the damage.
Right.
It's about proving the value
Exactly.
of what was lost.
Think of it as building a strong case
Okay.
to support your claim.
Yeah,
The more evidence you have, the better.
makes sense.
Okay, so we've talked about the immediate aftermath,
Right.
inspecting for damage, talking to your insurance adjuster.
Right.
But what about the long-term effects of hurricanes?
Yeah.
How do these storms shake up the real estate market?
That's a big question.
It is. It's a complex issue.
Yeah.
If you think of the immediate aftermath as a whirlwind,
Okay.
the long-term impact on real estate is more like a roller coaster ride.
A roller coaster.
You have those immediate consequences.
Right.
Structural damage, flooding insurance headaches.
Yeah.
But over time, those ripples turn into waves.
So are you saying that property values always plummet after a hurricane?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
It really depends on a lot of factors.
Okay.
The severity of the storm,
Okay.
the location of the property,
All right.
the overall state of the market.
Got it.
In some cases, Meachon actually points out that property values might rebound quickly,
Really?
especially in desirable areas
Okay.
where demand remains high.
So it's not a guarantee.
No, not at all.
Okay.
But in other areas, the damage might be so extensive that it takes years for the market to recover.
Wow. So it's not a one-size-fits-all situation.
Definitely not.
Ah.
Each hurricane, each community is unique.
Right. And there's also the issue of insurance premiums.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
After a major hurricane,
Yeah.
insurance companies, they often reevaluate their risk assessments,
Uh-huh.
which can lead to much higher premiums.
For everyone.
Yeah, especially for homeowners in hurricane-prone areas.
Right, which then impacts, affordability.
Exactly.
Who can live in these areas? It's a domino effect.
Right.
Hurricanes can even lead to population shifts
Wow.
as people decide to relocate
Yeah.
after experiencing a major storm.
So we've got this immediate damage,
Yeah.
the insurance scramble,
Right.
this long-term reshaping of the real estate landscape.
Exactly.
But there's another side to this story, right?
There is, for some, hurricanes can create unique opportunities,
Okay.
particularly in the realm of real estate investment.
So that's what we're going to talk about next.
That's right. We're going to explore that side of the coin.
All right. I'm intrigued.
It's a fascinating perspective.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's dive in. It might seem a little counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But for some people, hurricanes can actually create opportunities.
Okay, so we're talking about, distressed properties selling at a discount.
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
Okay.
You have foreclosures,
Right.
properties with damage that the owners just can't afford to repair.
Yeah.
And those can often be bought at much lower prices.
Okay, so that makes sense.
But it also seems like a pretty risky investment.
You're right. It's not as simple as just finding a cheap house.
Right.
You have to think about the cost of repairs,
Yeah.
which could be substantial,
Huge. Yeah.
depending on the damage.
Right.
And you have to think about the location.
Okay.
Is it prone to flooding?
Right.
Is it likely to be hit by another hurricane?
Yeah. Those are all important things to consider.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
These are all factors that could affect your investment later on.
So due diligence is key here.
You
You can't just jump in blindly.
No, you need to do your research,
Right.
understand the risks.
And when we say due diligence,
Yeah.
we're talking about
We're talking about really investigating the property
okay,
before you buy it.
so inspection.
Inspections, title searches,
Yeah.
checking for environmental hazards.
So it's not for the faint of heart
No, it's not.
or for those without, expertise,
Right. You need to know what you're doing.
but for those who are prepared to put in the work. There is potential for profit.
Potentially, yes.
Awesome.
But it's important to remember that,
Yeah.
these opportunities often come from someone else's misfortune.
Right.
So, while there's nothing wrong with profiting
Yeah.
from these situations,
Right.
it's important to approach it with sensitivity
I see what you're saying.
and,
Yeah.
a commitment to ethical practices.
Okay, so beyond the investment side of things,
Yeah.
Meachon also talks about how hurricane aftermath
Right.
can really impact the rental market.
It definitely does.
So can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
imagine you have hundreds, maybe even thousands of homes that are damaged.
Wow.
Suddenly, there's a huge demand for rental properties.
Right, because people need a place to stay.
Exactly. People are displaced.
Yeah.
They need somewhere to live while their homes are being repaired.
Okay, so increased demand.
Yes. But at the same time,
Yeah.
you might see a decrease in the availability of vacation rentals.
Right, because those are being used for long-term rentals.
Exactly. Property owners are shifting their focus
Okay.
to meet the needs of those displaced residents.
So it's kind of a double whammy on the rental market.
It creates a very interesting dynamic
Yeah.
with both challenges and opportunities.
And for those investors who are, ready to step in,
Yeah.
there could be significant returns.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
But it also highlights
Okay.
the importance of community resilience.
Okay.
How quickly can a community adapt
Right.
to these sudden changes in the housing market?
Yeah.
How effectively can they provide support and resources?
To those who have been displaced.
Exactly.
That's a huge part of the recovery process.
It is. It's a crucial factor.
And it really brings us back to that idea that,
Yeah.
hurricane recovery isn't just about rebuilding physical structures.
Right. It's about people.
It's about rebuilding lives and communities.
Absolutely. And that's where the role of local government becomes so important.
Okay, let's talk about that.
All right.
What can local governments do?
Well, they play a vital role in so many ways.
Okay.
Think about infrastructure improvements
Okay.
to help mitigate future damage.
Like what kind of things?
Things like stronger seawalls,
Okay.
improved drainage systems,
Got it.
updating building codes.
To make structures more resistant to wind and water?
Exactly. It's about being proactive
Yeah.
and learning from past experiences.
To better prepare for the future?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just about physical infrastructure.
Okay.
Local governments also have a responsibility to create programs and policies
Okay.
that support homeowners in the rebuilding process.
So what would that look like?
Things like providing financial assistance for repairs,
Okay.
streamlining the permitting process,
Right.
offering tax breaks to encourage redevelopment.
So it's about making it easier for people to get back on their feet.
Exactly. It's about removing barriers and providing support.
And beyond supporting homeowners,
Yeah,
local governments also have a role in attracting new businesses.
that's right. It's crucial for economic recovery.
Absolutely.
They can offer incentives to businesses
Okay.
that are willing to invest in hurricane-affected areas.
To help create jobs.
Exactly, to revitalize the local economy.
So it's a multifaceted approach.
It is. It requires a comprehensive strategy.
You're investing in infrastructure,
Supporting homeowners.
fostering economic growth.
That's all connected.
But it's not just about the government stepping in.
Right.
We've also seen some amazing examples of community-led recovery efforts.
Absolutely. In the wake of disasters,
Yeah.
you often see this incredible surge in volunteerism
Really?
and community spirit.
Like what kind of things?
People helping their neighbors clear debris,
Wow.
distributing food and supplies,
Okay.
offering emotional support.
It's amazing how people come together.
It is. It's a testament to human kindness.
And these acts of kindness and solidarity,
Yeah,
those are the foundation of community resilience.
absolutely. It's about people coming together
Yeah.
to support each other.
And it's not just about immediate relief. It's about that long-term recovery.
Right.
How does a community rebuild its infrastructure?
Its economy, its sense of place.
It's a huge undertaking
It is,
Yeah.
but it's also an opportunity
to create something even better.
to build back stronger and more resilient.
I like that. And, speaking of those long-term recovery efforts,
Yeah.
I think those local government initiatives we talked about,
Right.
they play a huge role in shaping that.
They do. They have a significant impact.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Okay.
They're responsible for investing in more resilient infrastructure,
Okay.
creating programs to help homeowners rebuild,
Right.
and even attracting new businesses to the area
So their decisions have these ripple effects.
for years to come. Absolutely.
They're kind of like the architects
Yeah.
of the community's comeback story.
I like that analogy.
And speaking of comebacks,
Yes.
let's circle back to the real estate market.
Okay.
Meet Sean really paints this dynamic picture
does.
of how hurricanes create both challenges and opportunities.
For buyers and sellers.
Yeah. So for sellers,
It can be a tough decision.
in what way?
Do you try to sell your damaged property quickly,
Okay.
potentially at a loss?
Right.
Or do you wait it out and hope the market rebounds?
It's a gamble.
It's a difficult choice.
And for buyers,
It's about weighing the risks and rewards.
you might find a good deal,
You might.
but you also have to think about those repairs.
Right, and the potential for future storms.
Yeah. So it's a delicate balance.
It is, but one thing that Mead-Sean stresses
Okay.
is the need for transparency.
Okay. What does that mean in this context?
It means sellers need to be upfront about any past damage,
Okay.
any repairs that have been done.
And buyers need to do their due diligence.
Absolutely get those inspections.
So it's about honesty
Yes.
and careful planning,
On both sides.
informed decision-making.
Exactly. Nobody wants to feel like they've been misled.
Right, or taken advantage of.
Exactly. And that goes back to having a trusted team.
A professional.
Yes. Real estate agents, inspectors, contractors, lawyers.
People you can rely on
Absolutely. People to guide you through the process.
and advocate for your best interests.
Exactly. It's about having that support system.
Okay, so we've talked about the immediate aftermath,
The insurance maze,
the real estate roller coaster,
the power of community.
legal considerations.
A lot to take in.
It is, but as we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to leave our listeners with a question
Okay.
that Meet Sean poses in his article.
I'm listening.
And it really got me thinking,
Okay.
how has your community been shaped by hurricanes?
That's a great question.
It is. It makes you realize that
Yeah.
hurricanes aren't just these isolated events.
Right.
They have this lasting impact on the places we call home.
They become part of a community story.
Whether it's changes to the landscape,
Shifts in population.
or even just a renewed sense of community spirit.
It's all interconnected.
And even if you haven't personally experienced a hurricane, it's worth thinking about how these forces of nature
Are shaping the world around us.
absolutely, because as we've seen in our deep dive today,
Right.
the impacts of hurricanes extend far beyond that immediate damage,
They ripple outwards
affecting everything from the economy
to the environment.
to the very fabric of our communities.
And as we move into the final part of our discussion,
Okay.
we'll delve even deeper into some of those broader implications.
All right, I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. It's going to be fascinating.
It's amazing, isn't it?
What's that?
Just how interconnected everything is when we're talking about hurricane recovery.
Yeah, it really is.
Like from the individual homeowners
Ah.
to entire communities, from insurance policies to the real estate market.
Right. It's all part of this complex system.
We've explored the practical steps people can take to prepare for a hurricane,
We've talked about the insurance maze.
the ups and downs of the real estate market.
It's a lot.
But there's another layer I think we need to talk about,
And what's that?
the human element.
Ah, yes, the human side of things.
Because amidst all the logistics and the financial considerations,
Right.
it's easy to forget about the emotional toll that a hurricane can take.
Absolutely. We're talking about people losing their homes,
Their belongings.
their sense of security.
It's a traumatic experience.
And the recovery process can be really long and challenging.
Michan touches on this briefly in his article.
He does?
He talks about the importance of mental health resources and community support systems.
It's so important to acknowledge the psychological impact of these events.
Right.
And provide access to counseling support groups.
All those resources that can help people cope with the trauma and the stress.
And rebuilding their lives.
And it's not just about individual well-being.
Right.
It's also about the collective spirit of a community.
How do you rebuild trust and foster resilience?
How do you create a sense of shared purpose after something so devastating?
And that's where I think the power of community really shines.
In what way?
We see these incredible acts of compassion and empathy in the wake of disasters.
Right.
Neighbors helping neighbors, volunteers coming in from other areas.
People coming together to offer support.
It's really inspiring.
It's like a phoenix rising from the ashes.
I like that.
Out of the destruction comes this incredible surge of human connection
Right.
and this determination to rebuild stronger than before.
It's a testament to the resilience of the human spirit
It really is.
and a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there's always hope.
But even as we celebrate that resilience,
Yeah.
I think it's also important to acknowledge the reality of climate change and its potential impact on hurricane frequency and intensity.
Right. That adds another layer of complexity to this whole conversation.
Because as our planet warms,
Yeah.
scientists are predicting more extreme weather events, including hurricanes,
And that means we need to shift our focus from just reacting to these events.
to proactively preparing for them.
Absolutely.
And that preparation goes beyond just having a hurricane kit or an evacuation plan.
It's about investing in more resilient infrastructure
Adopting sustainable building practices.
and having those tough conversations about climate change adaptation and mitigation.
We need to recognize that we're all in this together.
Absolutely.
The choices we make today, both individually and collectively,
Yeah.
will shape the world we leave for future generations.
That's a powerful thought.
And that includes making smart decisions about where and how we build,
How we manage our natural resources.
and how we support those communities that are most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change.
It's a shared responsibility.
It really is.
So as we wrap up our deep dive today,
Yeah.
I'm left with a sense of cautious optimism.
I agree. We've seen the destructive power of these storms,
We have.
but we've also witnessed the incredible resilience of people.
And the power of communities to come together and rebuild.
It's a reminder that even in the face of adversity, there's always hope.
And a call to action.
To use what we've learned to make informed decisions.
To advocate for change.
And to build a more sustainable and resilient future for everyone.
Well said.
This deep dive has been quite a journey,
It has.
and I hope it's given our listeners some new ideas and maybe even inspired some action.
Me too.
Remember, knowledge is power,
It is.
but it's only as powerful as the actions we take with it.
So true.
It's been a pleasure diving deep with you all.
Likewise.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged.